It's 11 a.m. here in Seoul. I'm Osuyong at the Arirang News Center. We're breaking into our regular programming to bring you a live briefing from the South Korean health authorities on the coronavirus outbreak here in the nation. In just a few moments, we're going to cut into the briefing at the Sejong Government Complex with simultaneous interpretation available in English. We're going to go into the briefing room now, where Kim Gang-lip, overall coordinator of the Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasure Headquarters and also Vice Health Minister, will be sharing the latest figures and updates on the COVID-19 situation here in the country. And he's just taken to the podium. It looks like the briefing's just about to begin.
First, here is Mr. Kim Gang-lip with the briefing on the COVID-19 response. Let us now begin our regular briefing for June 3rd, Wednesday. As of today midnight, we have 49 new cases, and of them 46 are local transmissions, while 3 are imported cases. And as of today midnight, we have a total number of confirmed cases that stands at 11,590, and a total of 10,467 have been discharged following full recovery, and 850 are in quarantine. The death toll now stands at 273, with one more additional fatality as of yesterday. I extend my deepest condolences to the deceased and the members of the bereaved family. This morning, KCDC held a meeting presided over by Prime Minister Chung Se-kyun, and he mentioned the intensifying plans to intensify quarantine for many public areas, as well as the reopening of the schools and daycare centers. And he says that the resumption of the schools have prompted increased concerns among the public. However, he said that due to the difficulties at present, we cannot put at risk the future and hope of our students. And this is why we had makeshift schools even during the Korean War. And he also continued to ask for all members of the public to continue to abide by the quarantine measures going forward. And he stressed that these are the things that we must do right now. And here are some updates on the related cases in the metropolitan area. And the total number of new cases today are at 49, and almost all of them, amounting to 48, are concentrated in the metropolitan area. And they are from the small group meetings of religious groups and also private academies. And we also continue to see sporadic outbreaks of infections with unknown sources. And this is why we need to have a more grave conditions of the situation and be on alert. And starting from the 29th of May, we have put in place on the facilities of like the PC rooms and private academies and bars and clubs to suspend their operations, and if necessary they have to be opened. We ask them to continue to strictly abide by quarantine measures. And as Gyeonggi-do province and Incheon city see a surge in the number of confirmed cases, aside from the central government administrative order, they also put in place a local government administrative order in multi-use facilities like the logistics center and wedding halls as well. And above all, we also highlight the importance of a voluntary participation of the public in the quarantine protocols, because these administrative orders are just very limited in their scope. However, the infections could take place at anywhere and any time. Therefore, if we continue to ease ourselves of quarantine measures, we can also have higher risk of infection. So my words to the members of the public living in the metropolitan area are as follows. So please postpone or cancel your gatherings until the end of next week. And we hope that you refrain from going to multi-use facilities, including restaurants and the private academies. And please avoid gathering in confined and enclosed and crowded spaces. As for the religious group meetings, we have seen an increase of the surge of infections among small groups, so we ask you to postpone these meetings or meet non-face-to-face. And if you have to have face-to-face meetings for unavoidable reasons, we ask you to have wear the face masks at all times. We believe that until next week, these will be the essential and crucial time for our future of the outbreak, and we continue to ask for you to stay on alert and vigilant and comply with the quarantine protocols. The quarantine authorities, we have witnessed increase in the number of confirmed patients in the facilities of religious facilities, and we have encouraged these facilities to make use of many quarantine protocols. We also requested them to have non-face-to-face meetings and refrain from gatherings and refrain from physical contact, as well as other activities that increase the travel of respiratory droplets. As a result, we have seen no infections at facilities that abided by such quarantine measures. However, there were some facilities that did not comply with such measures, which are now seeing a high number of confirmed patients. And going forward, we continue to ask for distancing in these religious facilities going forward. On top of this, today's KCDC meeting, we also discussed measures for the multi-use facilities, including the sports facilities and water parks. And the government, we have considered the special characteristics of the indoor sports facilities, and the government also recommends the use of face masks and the use of personal utensils and personal items, including personal gym wear and towels. So these are stipulated in our special guideline, and we also advise all of the people who are visiting these facilities to refrain from using multi-use facilities like shower rooms and changing rooms. And we also highlight the importance of daily disinfection. And also we provided additional guidelines for the water park guidelines, and including all of the belongings and the things that are used inside the water parks. We ask people to bring their own items, and the facilities need to restrict the number of visitors at a given time. And we ask the local governments and the business establishments to continue to carry out on-site inspection to check whether these quarantine measures have been put in place. Yesterday, we also conducted such inspection on nearly 700 facilities of indoor sports facilities, and we also put in place some recommendations and guidelines as well. And at the Cultural Ministry, we will continue to carry out our inspection for about 200 water parks nationwide until next month. The quarantine authorities, we also continue to increase and highlight the importance of quarantine measures at the water parks and other multi-use facilities. They will be rolled out today, and we ask these business establishments to designate a quarantine monitor so that he or she can look at the conditions of quarantine measures, and we will also continue to evaluate the risk of infection for each of the facilities as well. Moreover, on a regular basis, these guidelines will be inspected whether they are implemented to a full extent, and we will also provide implementations and improvements. So we would ask all of the business establishments to take a responsibility to carry out these quarantine guidelines. If there are 2 or 3 continued inspections and diagnosis of confirmed patients on a given period, we will be carrying out extensive measures, and we will also advise the facility to report to the public health centers of a suspicious infectious disease outbreak. And we ask all of these business establishments to continue with our participation in the quarantine measures. The quarantine authorities believe that we need to resume our routine daily lives of our public. And starting from June 1st, since the reopening of our nursing homes, we are currently carrying out safe environment for our children and toddlers. And under this circumstance, many of our students and teachers are also putting their utmost efforts. We are also curbing the infection of the outbreak within the daycare centers, and we are preventing people with symptoms or like fever to come to the facilities. And on a regular basis, they are carrying out screenings of body temperature for twice a day. And also, we also highlight the importance of distancing in their daily lives. If there is children with symptoms, we will be returning this student home as soon as possible. And if there is a risks of infection and concerns of infection, we will also have support for the daycare. So if you are concerned of an outbreak, we are also providing support so that you can homeschool your children and toddlers. And we will continue to have an emergency scheme so that we can react directly and promptly to any outbreak that happens in the daycare centers. And we continue to ask for support from our teachers. Today is the third phase of school resumption for all grade levels in the high school, middle school, and elementary school. Until now, we believe that there are many people who are concerned about a possibility of an outbreak at schools. However, there were student infections, but they were all due to local infections, meaning that they did not lead to transmissions at schools. And this will be also very crucial going forward for us to continue to abide by the quarantine protocols so that we would have a smooth reopening of these schools going forward. And we have also prepared to our full extent, and all of our efforts will be briefed at the Education Ministry briefing this afternoon. Thanks to many people's dedication and sacrifice, our students are able to return to schools, kindergartens, and daycare centers, and they are learning and they are growing. So rather than words, we believe that we adults need to model themselves so that the students and the children can emulate the adults. I believe that they will be fully aware if the adults continue to show their continued efforts for quarantine measures, and the government will also improve our quarantine measures going forward. The government and the public will stay with concerted efforts, and we need to continue our exerted efforts so that we can overcome wisely the COVID-19 outbreak here in the country. Thank you very much.
Well, that was a live briefing from the South Korean health authorities. You just heard that, updating us on the COVID-19 situation here in the nation. We just heard that there were 49 additional cases of COVID-19 infections, bringing the accumulated total to 11,590. There was an additional death, bringing the total death toll to 273. Well, that wraps up our coverage of this morning's briefing. Thank you for staying with us, and we'll be back shortly with our regular midday newscast. Bye for now.